Many moons ago, in the age of the Third Era, a hero of peerless courage was said to have navigated a crisis that was set to swallow the crown jewel of the Empire. With steel and spirit, the hero defeated the Prince of Destruction, Mehrunes Dagon, repelled his army of Daedra, and closed shut the jaws of Oblivion. In this momentous year, that hero returns. Cresting the horizon, he stands equipped with a magic hammer, dagger, and wabbajack, ready to once again travel through these savage lands. And this time, he's in Unreal Engine 5. It's time to traverse past the Shivering Isles, through the Daedric plains of Oblivion, and outside the realms of the Nine Divines. It's time to go beyond the medium. Episode 10. Take me to Oblivion again. All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of Beyond the Medium. So after the several $billion we made off those Invincible shorts, Chandler has decided to spend his share sipping expensive liquor with Jeffrey Dean Morgan on a party yacht. We don't know when or if he's coming back, as I have not heard from him since the check cleared. So to fill in for today's episode, I'm very happy to have our first guest on the podcast. This is a mutual friend of Chandler and I, an avid GigaChat Oblivion enjoyer, and a scholar of the Elder Scrolls universe. Our good buddy Elias. Say what's up, Elias.
Hey, thank you for having me, Payton. I guess I'll give my credentials. I played Oblivion back in the day. I loved it, and I've been having a good time diving back in, and I'm looking forward to talking about it.
All right, nice. Yeah, I'm really glad we could get you on here. Chandler himself had never played Oblivion before, so it felt appropriate to have somebody with a bit more knowledge on the subject matter to discuss it. So let's go ahead and start talking about the remaster then, right? So the first thing I want to get into, right, is the shadow drop, because this was pretty unexpected. I didn't hear anything about this from like leaks or anything like that beforehand. And also your personal memories of the game, because it has been 20 years since this game came out. At least, I think maybe 19.
It's 2006.
Yeah, so about 19
I had to look
years.
it up recently. Yeah, I mean, there's always been rumblings within the community that this was going to happen. I never really paid too much attention to it because you never know what could happen, but I don't know, like the rumors ramped up. It was really like an organic announcement, like there was no official material on this drop. It was interesting.
And it was nice that they dropped it the same day they announced it, too.
Yeah, the second Bethesda did it.
Yeah, seeing available today always just goes so hard when you see a new announcement.
I think Bethesda, they used that strategy once with Fallout 4. I mean, it wasn't the same day, but it's hype. It's hype. Hopefully they do that with Elder Scrolls 6, like next month.
That would be nice, wouldn't it? That would be nice. But we'll get into some talk about Elder Scrolls 6 near the end, I think. In regards to Oblivion, though, what are some of the memories you had of the game from back in the day when you first played it? Because I mean, we were like not very old at the time.
Yeah, I think I was like 9 or 10 when I started playing it. It was like the only game I've sunk a lot of hours into. I didn't even have Xbox Live back in the day.
Yeah, I feel that.
So I had Call of Duty, like you beat the campaign, and then it was back to Oblivion. So it was just a mainstay. I had a billion different characters. Yeah, I mean...
Yeah. Oblivion, I have very specific memories of this game because this was actually the first game I played on the 360. I had a cousin who was living with me for about a year who had the console. I didn't have it. I had a PS2 growing up before I got my 360, but that was way later. But he would try that Big Brother shit where he wouldn't let me play while he was there. So whenever he wasn't at home, I would have to make a new save. But as a tiny baby, I had a lot of trouble trying to make it out of the Imperial Sewer. I also remember his mom had a problem with us playing the game because she didn't like how you could strip people down to their undies. So that was pretty funny.
It is questionable, like...
Should my child be looking at this? Should they be stabbing people and then taking their clothes?
Taking all their clothes off.
Anyways, I wasn't very good at the game the first time I got my hands on it, but even as a little baby, I was immediately very interested in the game's atmosphere and style because it was so different to what I had played up until that point, which was, like I said, PS2 games. Like I was mostly playing like Crash Bandicoot and stuff like that. So I didn't really get to fully enjoy the game until later in life. But I do reminisce about secretly playing the game when my cousin was either not at home or asleep.
Could get some hours in by yourself.
It was cool. It felt like I wasn't supposed to be playing.
Yeah, that's funny because I remember one time I brought the disc to my cousin's house, and we started up a character on his Xbox, and he like fell in love with it immediately too.
Yeah, it's a strong opener. It's a very captivating like start to the game, especially once you exit the sewer for the first time, and the music hits and you just see that whole big ass open world around you. I mean, as a little kid, back in 2006 to whatever that time period was when you played it, uh, that was pretty fucking insane at the time.
Yeah, and you know what? Maybe I'm jumping the gun here, but looking back now, I'm like, was this all with rose-colored glasses, or am I just jaded? 'Cause coming back to the remaster, and maybe it is the new visuals, but it's something about it just doesn't captivate me. I'll be honest with you. Like maybe it's missing the bloom or something. Like the graphics, in my opinion, they don't really measure up with the original. Like the atmosphere isn't quite there.
I see. I understand. Yeah, I mean that makes sense because the next topic on the docket was the visuals, right? So the way the remaster looks to me feels kind of similar to the way that the original Demon Souls looks compared to the PS5 remake. There's a higher level of fidelity and polygons to all the models, right? But there's also a very distinct difference in the art style and mostly the use of color, I find. Because Oblivion, from what I remember of the game, had a very like green and blue color palette, whereas this one has a much warmer color palette. Um, yeah, with the remaster, they seem to have shifted their focus on the art style, which I don't dislike, but it does feel different, you know? I kind of wish they maintained some of that tone from the original game's color palette. That being said, in my opinion, I think the environments for the most part do look really good. The forest of Cyrodiil looks so much better now that they aren't just copy pasted trees. The major cities all look pretty beautiful. I really like Shaden Hall. Um,
The
do you
cities
have
do
a
look good. I'll
do
give
you
you
have
that.
a particular favorite city from the remaster?
Oh, my favorite city always and forever will be Skingrad.
Pretty awesome, right? Skingrad in general is just an awesome location too. I like how the castle is separated from the city by the bridges, and it's how it's
Yeah,
like elevated too, like it's kind of like on a little hill. It's a pretty cool
I
place.
I would definitely be moving to Skingrad if I lived in Cyrodiil.
So yeah, the creatures and armor sets are where I have some small nitpicks. Um, some of the creatures look really good to me, and some of them feel kind of off, like they don't really capture the aesthetic of those classic designs. And I think the biggest standout example to me is the trolls. The trolls look a lot more like big gorillas now, and I kind of miss how they were like green and they had those beady black eyes. But then you have other creatures, right, like the Daedroth and the Minotaurs, and I think those look great.
I agree with
Overall,
you there, honestly.
do you think you're
Um,
more happy or disappointed with the art style, though?
Overall, I feel disappointed with the art style. I mean, it's not a deal breaker for me necessarily, but I don't know, it doesn't deliver the same atmosphere.
That's definitely true. That's definitely true.
And I don't know if I like this new atmosphere more than the old one.
Mm. I'd say I'm overall pretty happy with the new art style. Um, Because I think it's nice that it provides a new visual experience for new people and returning players alike, right? I do think that there was kind of a weird mixing of some of the more modern Bethesda elements, you know? Like, because you could also compare stuff like Fallout 3 to Fallout 4, right? I mean, there was a large art style change that happened there as well. And it feels like some of that is kind of seeping into this, the way this remaster looks. But I still think overall, I think this looks better than Skyrim from an art style perspective.
I don't know if I could agree with you there.
Really? Hmm. Because honestly, I
Um,
don't like how Skyrim looks at all, really.
yeah, it is a little washed out, but I don't know. It's a little bit too hyper realistic. Like I think it's almost lacking in art style sometimes. And one area in particular that I am not happy with is the Shivering Isles.
Mm. Really?
Yeah, I like back in the original, it like Mania felt dirty and dingy, and it was a little scary. And Dementia was like nice and bright. And I don't know. It looks kind of samey in the remaster.
Was it not the other way around? Wasn't Dementia the
Dementia's
depressing
the
one?
scary and dark place.
Yeah.
You're right. You're right.
And then
I'm
Mania's the
mixing it up.
colorful one, yeah. I don't know. I'd have to really go back and look, to be honest. It's been so long since I've seen the Shivering Isles on the original version of Oblivion. Did you go and like take a look at it recently for comparison?
Yeah, and one thing they did keep that I will give them points for is the skybox.
The skybox looks
They
fucking
did keep
awesome.
they did keep the cool skybox at night.
Skybox is fucking sick, dude. I love how it's blue and purple, at least on the Mania side. I don't know if it's the same. I haven't looked much at the Dementia side. But that's
Yeah,
interesting because it seemed like to me that you were overall pretty happy with the art style when I was talking to you about this before.
I think it was once I hit the Shivering Isles, I started to take a good look around.
And
And
that's also your like particular favorite part of the game, isn't it?
yes, it is. It is. Pretty much not every part of it. There are some quests that suck there. Like the addiction quest. It always takes forever.
Mm.
And you have to like take hits of drugs, right, to like make it through.
Oh yeah, 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 yeah.
'Cause
The
I
where you're
haven't played
taking the
it in
green
the
stuff.
remaster yet.
Yeah, yeah, dude, that one was not good. Yeah.
Sounds like that hasn't changed.
No, that one was not good. That was because honestly, going through it again, I was like, damn, these quests are all really fun. And then I hit that one, and I was like, what the fuck happened here?
That's just, there's a few stinkers in there, but that's all right.
Yeah, but they have the quest before that. You have to I forget what the name of the place is, right? But it's the place where he lures the adventurers, and then you get to set off the traps for them.
Yes. Yeah,
Such a
that
fun
one's so
quest.
good. That blew my mind back in the day.
And then you get to take all the rewards. It's so funny.
Mine was so janky when I did it in the remaster. Like
Mhm.
they kept like running around in circles. Like
Oh,
the
really?
pathing was all fucked up,
Oh, that sucks.
but I still enjoyed it. And one thing that creeps me out constantly about the visuals are the faces.
Yeah. The
I don't know
Uncanny
which one's
Valley,
more horrifying. I don't know which one's scarier.
the old version or
The
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 new
OG
version.
or yeah.
Mm. I mean, the OG is like they were very clearly plasticky video game faces, from that era. But they have it's weird, right? Because the way this like remaster kind of works, right, is they took the original game in the Gamebryo engine and then they like layered Unreal Engine 5 on top of it. So they still have the same physics and stuff to their face, like the way the mouth animates and stuff, but you have like a higher polygon model over that now, and it does look very disturbing at points.
Some of the high elves just look fucked up.
Yeah. I mean, they always the characters always look fucked up, so I think that's kind of appropriate.
I guess so. They do a good job of keeping the spirit of the original game. I will give them that. They did a fantastic job. You can still do all the old exploits.
Yeah, and there's
They're,
still
they're,
tons of unintentionally hilarious stuff because the AI pathing is still a part of the game. It's still the same, you know. Like
my,
there's a Thieves Guild fence, right? The last Thieves Guild fence is in the Imperial City. Um, and I was having trouble like trying to fence to him because I couldn't find him, right? And I looked it up and I found out that he lives in another guy's house, or he no, he has his own house, but he sleeps at another NPC's house. So I go to that NPC's house, right? And people on Reddit were saying, okay, break into his house because the guy doesn't have a key because it's not his. So when he gets in there, he doesn't leave. So
fuck, so
I sneak in there, right? I unlock the door and I open it, and they're both butt naked. They're both not wearing
what?
clothes. I'm serious. And I don't know if it was just a weird bug or if that was like intentional or something, you know, but it was very strange to me that I walked in and both the NPCs were butt naked.
I think Todd Howard would say that was intentional.
Yeah. So
But
yeah, there's still tons of fun bugs and stuff, and I still think they captured the unintentionally hilarious spirit of the original
yeah, my
game.
my absolute favorite thing about Oblivion that they kept in the remaster is when you kill someone with destruction magic, they just fly up in the air inexplicably.
Yeah, because I have that staff from the Mages Guild quest, and I remember I took that to the arena, right? And I was doing the end of the arena quest where you had to fight the monsters, you know? And I was already so
Yeah.
high level that I just skipped right to the Minotaurs. So I was like, all right, let's fight 3 Minotaurs. And I took that Mage's staff, bro, and it felt like I was Palpatine because I just pointed it at them and it went whoosh, and they flew backwards. It was awesome.
Yeah, they I like how they updated the attack animations though. Like especially the staff. It
Mhm.
feels powerful because you just like slam that motherfucker down.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
that's a great transition to start talking about the mechanics, right? So the mechanics for the game have, in most parts, stayed the same. However, there have been significant changes in a few areas, most notably in the quality of life department, right? Um, so there's frankly too
Absolutely.
many changes to count, but just to give everyone here an idea, right? You can fast travel to any of the major cities right from the beginning of the game. The leveling system has been overhauled to be much more intuitive. Like you don't have to only spec into your major skills now. Um, an origin option was added to the character creator. Your character can now have facial hair. Aspects of movement, such as sprinting and a momentum system, have been introduced into the game. They put some new voice actors in there so that the NPCs don't all have the same 5 voices. The UI has been improved as empty containers have an empty indicator next to them, like in Skyrim. You can filter locations on the map. You get highlighted outlines around in game objects that you can pick up. There's no more of that stuff where you harvest a plant and there's a chance for you to just get nothing. And just much more stuff that just makes the game more enjoyable to play, in my opinion.
I didn't even realize some of those. Like I didn't know you could filter the map, and I completely forgot that sometimes you would pick a plant and nothing would happen.
No, nothing was gathered. Classic.
Yeah.
So
It makes
many,
sense, but it's just fucked up.
yeah, it does make sense though. But I get that's a bit of a like, how much do you want it to be a role playing thing versus like a video game that's makes sense, you know? Many bugs
And
were also
overall,
sorry. Good.
oh, no, I was just gonna say overall, Oblivion is kind of like a fast food RPG
Ooh,
with the mechanics it goes for.
that's a
It's
claim.
well, it's not as deep as its predecessors, right? It's way more accessible, and I think that's what drew me into it
I mean,
back in
definitely.
the day.
Yeah, definitely. And it's I
Uh,
do think it's an argument though as to whether you think that that's a good thing or a bad thing,
I
because
think it's a good thing. It serves Oblivion well
well,
for what it is.
in some ways it's cool when the game mechanics are a little more obtuse. In other ways it's like this is really fucking annoying. So Many bugs were also patched, but many more are still here. I don't know about you, but I had a shitload of bugs while playing.
The main bugs I encountered that really stuck out were I was being soft locked on certain quests,
Yeah.
especially trying to make it through the Mages Guild.
Hmm.
Like two or three of those quests soft locked on me, and I left, I came back, and it was fine, but it's still annoying.
I had a couple problems. I told you about that one with the Fighters Guild with that first quest where you're supposed to follow that guy and find the mountain lions that are eating the rats.
Yeah.
So I did the one for Bursgrow Cache and Shaden Hall first, and I guess because of that, the scripting or something for how the quests are supposed to play out broke. Because he gave me the contract, but he also gave me the advancement at the same time. And I think you were supposed to do it first, so that was a little confusing. Other than that, mostly it's just been like visual glitches, right? Like my character's armor constantly bugs out. You remember when I was wearing that hood at the very beginning of the game? That hood would
Yeah.
bug out all the time. Like there would be missing textures. Like it would be like a gray and white checker pattern over the hood sometimes.
Oh, really? Just texture
Yeah, it's
missing.
just gone.
Sorry. But that mountain lion quest bugged for me too. Where it was when I went out with the hunter. We got jumped by like every mountain lion we were supposed to fight on the way. So we were just surrounded by like 9 mountain lions. And after we killed them, I talked to him and he was like, "We gotta find these mountain lions." I
But they were
still had to
already
follow
dead.
him. We had to follow him all the way through the fucking forest looking for him.
Yeah, so shit like that just is still like it's kind of part of the game, honestly. Like it's baked into the game's DNA. And I'm sure if they tried to fix any of this shit, they would probably cause more problems.
Oh, time out, time out. Back in the OG Oblivion, you could get unofficial patches for like all of these.
So that still exists, by the way. They just straight up applied it to the remaster. You can just go on Nexus and download that.
I didn't even know this.
Yeah, there's still a. I think it came out like the same day the game came out.
That is interesting.
So yes, there is the unofficial Oblivion patch, right? That's a good point, but I don't know. I feel like if Bethesda specifically tried to fuck with any of this, they would just create more problems. You
You
might
have
as well
no
just
trust
keep.
in the community.
Yeah, the
I mean, at
game
this point,
runs. Just keep the code as it is.
yeah, I agree with you.
Um,
I do like the changes to the leveling system, though. It was the original is so obtuse. I mean, so you had to level up a skill that was grouped with an attribute a certain amount of times to get the highest modifier when you leveled up. So really what you wanted to do was take all major skills, or you wanted to take major skills that you weren't going to level up, and you would only level them up when you actually wanted to level up your character. It was such a goofy way to do a level up system. And then there you have to do calculus to like figure out how to level up endurance optimally in the OG Oblivion. But it just applies retroactively now. The health you would have missed if you weren't doing the optimal path.
yeah, there was. I mean, it was just way too restrictive and odd for a game that's supposed to be about you making a character, right? So
Yeah. That's why you just turn the difficulty all the way down and then you just do whatever you want.
that's how we played it back in the day, baby. Um,
That's
yeah.
even I like how they preserve the bullshit ass difficulty levels
Oh yeah, they sure
too.
did. They because this
I
game scales like a motherfucker still.
I swear to God, the hardest difficulty is not for anyone. Like there is no target audience that wants to do that.
No, you just suffer.
I say that, but I'm sure there's someone who plays on that difficulty. But who are you? Why?
Who are you?
What are you
Who
doing?
do you
Like
think you are?
you just have to break the game to even play it,
Yeah, you might as well just fucking open up the console commands at that point and just go to
or
town.
just make broken potions. Honestly, with my my Chuck Norris character on the remaster, I've realized how overpowered restoration and alteration really can be.
You should explain the Chuck Norris character for the audience since they probably don't know what that means.
I mean, it's simple. I use restoration to buff my speed and recover fatigue over time, and then alteration to shield damage. And I just sit there and punch everyone. I don't wear any armor. I don't use any weapons. I just punch people.
I love my favorite part was when you were telling me about the you have the spells right to unlock stuff instead of using lockpicks because Chuck Norris isn't gonna sit there and fucking fiddle
Hell
with a
no.
lock. He's gonna smash that shit open with his hands like Kratos.
Yeah, I'm a master in alteration, so I can unlock any lock
Yeah, they just
with
open by
magic.
themselves because they know better.
It's beautiful. That's been a lot of fun. I guess it's kind of a challenge run, but not really. But,
I'd say
it
kind of,
is
but
fun.
unarmed is a pretty popular way to play the game. So
Yeah, I think just role playing a character in general is a good way to play the game. Like,
it's kind of the point of the
sometimes,
game, honestly.
yeah, if you want some depth out of the game, sometimes you have to limit yourself. Otherwise, you just get OP shit. Like you just use a long sword and a shield and heavy armor,
Uh, no, I
and
didn't
you
do
can kill
that.
everything.
I didn't. I
You can
used light
just.
armor.
I mean, there's nothing wrong with that, but I don't know. I've done that a
Well,
million times.
I mean, yeah, that was the way that I played the game as a kid, though. Too, was I just excuse me, I just used every tool that the game had um, at my disposal because I wasn't really in the mindset of building a character at that point. I was just a child playing a game. But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, that kind of goes back to the fundamentals of stuff like D&D though, like the limitations are part of the character as much as the stuff you're good at is, right? So, in that way, I do kind of wish like what I like out of an RPG is a little bit of friction where you can't just really be good at everything, right? But the Elder Scrolls games like Oblivion and Skyrim are pretty well known for the fact that you could just be guild master in all the guilds. You can just be good at literally everything. It's a little bit better in Oblivion. You have to be more specialized in Oblivion, but you can still just level up everything to 100 if you just do it.
Yeah, I
Um
mean, same goes for other RPGs, I suppose, but
yeah.
it, that depth isn't represented well in Elder Scrolls games. You really have to make it your own game. I'm
Yeah.
realizing, like coming back, however many years later, it's kind of making me want to go back and play Skyrim and do something crazy.
I've seen a lot of
But
people on our friends lists and stuff playing Skyrim recently. And I mean, it makes sense, right? Because that's what a lot of people did when the that Fallout TV show came out, right? Everybody went back to Fallout 4, and it's like Bethesda has these very cherished and wonderful IPs, but instead of dedicating to those, they want to come up with poo poo slop instead and spend their time
hey, the
working on
Fallout show
nothing.
was badass.
Yeah, but they
All
didn't
right,
make that.
Todd
They
Howard was there
he
when
was
they
a
made it.
he was a producer on the show, and I'm sure he helped them. But I'm talking about the video games that have been put out since Skyrim, because you can always there's a big argument to be made as to whether Skyrim is like a good game or not, right? Because even compared from what Oblivion did with Morrowind, right? Oblivion simplified a lot of things from Morrowind, but Skyrim then took that a step further, right? Um, this is another good time to talk about the comparison between Oblivion and Skyrim because I've seen a lot of people talking about that recently, right? I've seen a lot of videos with thumbnails that say stuff like Oblivion has a magic that Skyrim doesn't, but I think that's kind of a lazy answer to be honest, right? Because the biggest difference to me between those two games is the way that quests work and the distinction of a high fantasy setting versus the more grounded fantasy setting that I think Skyrim was going for.
That is a good point. I didn't think to compare them like that. Skyrim is a bit more grounded, but I think it focuses on different things. But I like both games. I'll come out and say it now. I don't really think one is. It's hard for me to pick one over the other. I would have said Oblivion a couple years ago, but I don't know. Going back and playing it, I've changed my answer.
Mm. So you
Honestly,
came back with a couple negative feelings from the remaster as well, huh?
yeah. I guess I've played a few more RPGs, like specifically like this is unfair, but like Divinity is that's one of my favorite RPGs
And what about
as of now.
Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, right?
Kingdom Come Deliverance. We played Mass Effect after Oblivion. I mean, you know, I would say a Mass Effect is an RPG.
Another unfair one, Baldur's Gate.
I, I s- I haven't played Baldur's Gate quite yet.
Well, from what I know of that game is very distinct in its like D&D format, where it's like how you progress is based on like ideas and things you can do in the situation, like how a D&D game would work. Like, oh, I sneak up on this guy and steal his stuff, or I use illusion magic to change his mind or open up a new dialogue tree. It's like it is a very expanded upon uh fantasy Mass Effect kind of thing.
Yes, another unfair one. Witcher 3.
Also
But
explicitly unfair. I mean, these are also games like a couple of those examples are ones where you play as an established character too, and also unfair. The Witcher has established lore from the books that he came from too. So, but
there's a lot of established lore for Elder Scrolls too. But I
that's a fair
think the
point.
point
That's
of
a fair
maybe
point.
bringing up these games is it's like Bethesda hasn't given us anything new really to chew on. I mean, we keep just reliving and rehashing the same memories. I mean, they dug up Oblivion. I mean, maybe they'll run out of shit eventually and give us a new game.
Yeah. Um,
I guess Starfield did come out.
that
I
game's
almost forgot
ass.
about
That game's
Starfield.
ass, bro. That game was so boring and it ran so bad. That's another thing about the remasters. I did want to point out back in the mechanics section that the game does frankly run a little bit like ass, mostly when you're outside. Um, there are a couple mods that I've seen that try to make the game a bit more stable. It was something. It was like replacing like an INI file or something with Unreal Engine 5. So it's honestly pretty frustrating that so many games come out running like dog shit. But what are you gonna do?
Not buy them. I
No,
mean, they got me.
that's not an option.
I guess full disclosure, I did not pay for the remaster. It was gifted to me.
Damn, shill opinion.
Yeah, so it was gifted. The key was given to me by a Bethesda employee, but it's a long story.
Todd Howard gave it to you in a golden gift wrapped box.
I didn't even consider that. I haven't paid for the game, and I'm just sitting here giving my opinion on it. I don't have any skin in the game, other
Well,
than I do love the game, and I still have a lot of good sentiment towards Bethesda, even after everything that's happened in like the past 10 years
that
or
is
so.
very gracious and kind of you, to be honest.
Well, okay, we still have Elder Scrolls 6.
When?
There's still Elder.
When?
Don't
Tell me
worry
when.
about that.
Tell me when.
We can't be worried about that right now.
Okay. Well, we are going to talk about Elder Scrolls 6 and our predictions for
Yeah,
that at the end, but I do just want to go back to Oblivion versus Skyrim just because I had a little bit more to say about that.
for sure, for sure.
Okay, so like I was saying, Skyrim has a very rustic, grounded, kind of almost Game of Thrones type feeling to its art style and its atmosphere, where I feel like after replaying it, Oblivion has a more distinct high fantasy art style that is mostly apparent in stuff like the design of the armors and creatures and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's
Like
really overblown and unrealistic,
and
and I
ornate
mean,
and fancy,
yeah,
like kind of like if you've ever looked at like the elvish armor in like the Lord of the Rings movies. Whereas Skyrim was going for something a bit, like I said, more grounded. Maybe Game of Thrones is a bit of a rough comparison, but it felt more rustic and I guess that kind of makes sense for the environment that Skyrim is, but I think I like Oblivion's environment a lot more. I like the forest. I like the distinction of like the north area with the mountains. And in this remaster, right, with the new visuals, I've come to appreciate some of the older cities that I didn't used to give much thought to. Like I actually really like how Bruma looks now because
Yeah, Bruma.
it's so different compared to all the other cities.
I feel like all of them are pretty distinct. They each of them have their own like architecture style.
Yeah. So,
I do like Coral. That is a particular favorite of mine. The what is it? What is that? The Tudor style homes.
mm, what is the city? It's Shaden Hall, right? That has the statue in the Dark Brotherhood quest.
Yes.
Yeah, that's pretty cool, right? I like how the environment has like a little bit of storytelling in the quest too. Um, and in Anvil and stuff, there's like that statue too. So that's another thing I wanted to go into in the Oblivion versus Skyrim comparison, right? The locations in Skyrim as a whole feel much less developed. Uh, let's take like the factions, right? So the Fighters Guild and Mages Guild in Oblivion have locations all across the major cities, which I think helps gives them a more established and legitimate presence in the world. And by comparison, you have stuff like the College of Winterhold and the Companions, who look like bums with no sauce whatsoever. The college has a bit of lore talking about how Winterhold was destroyed and stuff, right? But the Companions are a legendary faction of warriors in the lore who only operate out of one city in the middle of an entire country. Faction quests in general were also half as long and full of references to Oblivion quests instead of just making their own new cool stuff specific to Skyrim. So you would get areas that were not as developed, and on top of that, you would get a rehash of stuff that I think was done better in Oblivion, like when you got the Blade of Woe, or Shadowmere, or the Wabbajack, or the Ogma Infinium, or the Spellbreaker Shield, and like all that stuff was all items and nostalgic stuff that was carried over from the last game. It's like how in Dark Souls 2, you can find like Artorias' sword and stuff, but it's like I kind of wish this game just had its own new cool stuff instead of just relying on things that we just had 5 years ago.
Um, all of the Elder Scrolls games have like the Daedric artifacts. The Blade of Woe, yeah, and I don't think so. That one they just carried over from Oblivion. But I honestly I think Skyrim is at its best when you're just walking around, just clearing dungeons, because the dungeon design is far, far, far superior to Oblivion.
That was the
Ob-
change in focus that you were talking about, right? It's like, to me, the quests in Oblivion are much longer and more complex, but like you said, Skyrim has the much better overall like world with stuff to do. Because something you notice about the dungeons in Oblivion is that they all look the fucking same, right?
They're even the same rooms. The caves are based off of like the same 11 rooms.
Yeah,
I swear.
pre-established like layouts that they just connected together over and over. And then what I really liked about this might be like I don't know how you feel about this, but I really liked how Skyrim's dungeons and stuff would loop back on themselves so that you didn't have to run all the way back through them like you do in Oblivion.
Yeah, some of them are just heinous where you have to sprint like back through 4 areas to
And they're
get back to the
underwater and
exit.
shit.
Yeah, I'm glad they added the clairvoyance spell sometimes. I
Yep.
won't lie. You
Yep.
don't have to pull
Another
up the map.
another goaded spell to bring into Oblivion, honestly. But
Yeah.
yeah, I guess it depends on like whether you like one game more than the other. I think would depend on where you think the focus should go. To me though, after playing the game recently, I think I enjoy uh the more the balance that Oblivion strikes between giving you too much information and not enough information with the quests. A quest in Oblivion will ask you to go to a city and find a guy, right? But it's up to
Mhm.
you to gather that information yourself, which makes it more like you're playing a character in the world. Skyrim will just slap a quest marker above your head and be like, "Go here, dumbass."
That is a good point. There were some cool moments, like when I was playing Chuck Norris, walking into a town and just talking to people. You do get to inhabit your character a little bit more. Or it's like Skyrim, when you're doing quests, you're just running from point to point. Who cares what the guy says after? Like, just skip the fucking dialogue.
Yeah, whatever,
Get
whatever.
your get your bones.
Where's my dragon bone sword, right?
Yeah.
So that's kind of how I feel. I liked that it was, like I said, it goes back to that kind of core of like a D&D character creator and game where the enjoyment is kind of the creativity you get out of solving a problem, you know? I found more often in Oblivion with a quest that I would have more freedom to try and finish a quest in the way that I wanted. So, I know you wanted to talk about the Dark Brotherhood quest, right? So there's that dope ass quest where you get locked in the house, the whodunit one, right? Where you're locked in a house with a handful of other people, where everyone is told that there is a chest full of gold under the house, or not under the house, but somewhere in the house, right? And they just have to
Yeah.
find it. Of course, there is no chest. You are just there to butcher all of them, but you are given complete freedom as to how you want to accomplish that and in what order you want to take the people out, you know? I don't This might just be a bit of bias because I haven't played Skyrim all the way through, at least all that recently. Whereas I've been eating, sleeping, and shitting Oblivion for like the past 2 weeks since it came out. Um, but it's just cool to me that there are more options. You know, I can't remember a quest in Skyrim that gave you that many options for how you wanted to solve the problem, you know? That to me is the core of like what a character driven RPG should be about. You should be inhabiting your character and finding ways to solve problems uniquely.
Yeah, Skyrim doesn't really deliver that, and I'm glad you brought up the whodunit quest because that's one of the best quests. Like bar none, that's one of my
Awesome.
favorite quests of all time.
So good.
There's a million different ways it can play out. You can like make people fight each other and do some of the dirty work for you. It's an amazing quest.
The way I
And
went about it right was, so there's the guy in there, there's the Nord, the Red Guard who used to be in the Imperial Army. There's the Dark Elf girl, there's the old woman, and then there's you, I think. Oh, and there's the rich Imperial, I think. But what had happened was there was like it was kind of sad because it was like these two characters, these NPCs they were talking about like, "Oh, I think she's really attractive, but I don't know if she would like want to talk to me or whatever." And then I went to go talk to the dark elf girl and I was like, "Yeah, you should go wait up in your room for him, you know?" And then while she was up there, I stabbed him in the face.
nice.
Yeah, it was pretty brutal. And then at the end, it came down to the drunk Nord guy and the old woman. And the Nord guy was like, "She's picking us off. Come with me, friend." And he picked up an axe and he just went to town on her ass.
Yeah, you can get that guy to slaughter pretty much anyone.
And he was like, "Oh, we did it, friend. All we got to do is find the way out of here now." And then he turned around and then, you know, I hit him with the sauce and that was the quest. But it's so cool to me that the quest can play out in so many different ways, you know?
Yeah, that quest is peak. I love everything about it, and that's why I love Oblivion. And you hit the nail right on the head. I mean, I couldn't agree with you more in your assessment. The quest, bar none, beat out anything Skyrim has on offer. The factions in Skyrim pissed me off back when
Yeah.
Skyrim dropped in 2011.
Yeah, it's like
I was
even when it came
disappointed.
out, right? It was still like the factions were just because it comes down to the fact that the quests are half as long and you just have to progress through it one way, you know? The biggest example in my mind is the companions, right? Where they go, "Hey, are you going to become a werewolf or nah?" And if you say nah, then you just don't get to do the quest for the Fighters Guild basically.
Yeah,
what is that about? You know, that's there should be more options for you to progress other than just the way they decided you to. Otherwise, I might as well be playing as an established character, right?
Maybe it was unfair calling Oblivion fast food. I think it's Skyrim is really it's a quarter pounder with cheese.
Yeah. Royale with cheese.
But like I said, I don't know if I'll really say one is better than the other.
I mean, I get where you're coming from though, right? Because um the way that we probably feel about Skyrim is the way that I know a lot of people feel about Oblivion when compared to Morrowind. Because Morrowind was even more like obtuse in the way that it delivered you information, and you had to work more and kind of embody the character even more to the point where it was like you making all the decisions, right? And then Oblivion stripped a little bit of that away, and then Skyrim did that again, but I think Skyrim went a little too far. I like how Oblivion has the competent balance between too obtuse, you know, and too simple.
Yeah, there's a lot. I mean, you can spend hours just fucking around, throwing items around, making spells that make you run 200 miles an hour.
Making spells is a excellent point to bring up because why the fuck did they get rid of that? Why'd they get rid of that? That was so cool.
That is a great question.
You can just pop a spell that triples your speed and then run across the water like the Flash.
I think maybe they didn't feel like doing the animations or something. I don't know.
Well, it probably did take a lot of work to make it so that it would all come together and then the spell would do what you wanted it to when you popped it, you know? With the two-hand system and stuff, they probably were just like, "Ah, it's too much work, fuck it."
There's two animations for Mad. There's three. Sorry. There's a touch, target, and self. So there's three animations total, but Skyrim had all these fancy animations. I mean, yeah, the presentation was nice, but I can see why maybe it was a challenge for Bethesda to add it.
I think the presentation in this game is equally as strong though, even if the animations aren't as like the animations in the game are pretty simple, right? It was nice that they added some of the combat animations though. Like I like the new combos when you swing with the sword, especially with the short swords and daggers have like that stab at the end.
Yes. Yeah, the three-hit combo was a great change to the combat. Because, I mean, in original Oblivion, you just mash right trigger, left click until your fucking finger falls off. And it was just a looping animation where you swing right, left, right, left, right, left, right, left.
There's also some pretty good new feedback animations on the creatures and NPCs that you're hitting too, right? Um, I there's a little bit of that in the original game, like the imps used to sway from left to right when you would swing on them, but your guy's arm would kind of just unnaturally go back and forth, whereas now it feels a lot more believable. And I like how the animations for the new like creatures and stuff when you hit them, it looks more like they're actually getting hit, gives you more feedback. Uh, I think all around, I really like the changes to the mechanics and interface. Um, they were able to bring the more positive aspects about Skyrim, right? Because it's not all bad, you know. As much as I like to shit on that game now, um, it still introduced a lot of good changes from Oblivion. And it was like they were able to distill those good things and put them into this remaster. And I hope that is a sign of good things, but I don't know.
Were you, did you play the remaster on controller?
No.
Oh, okay.
I
Because I'm curious how
actually
the UI handles on controller.
that would be a good point because I thought about it, right? Because that's how I originally played the game on the 360, you know. But after watching you play it and how you were like moving through the menus and stuff, I was like, no, I think I should be playing this on mouse and keyboard. With the
Yeah, I mean,
shortcuts and stuff, it just makes more sense.
it was like that in the original Oblivion. It was way better on mouse and keyboard, but it wasn't great. And then Skyrim, I feel like was just weird and disrupt. I hate how you had to do the radio menu every single time.
Yeah, they have
Uh,
that one mod that replaces the UI with something more appropriate for like a PC, and that I can't play without that now.
yeah, it definitely was. It just felt weird. It was awkward to handle. And there's that thing in every Elder Scrolls game where you pause and drink 6 potions. And you had to go through a bunch of steps in Skyrim, and it just broke up the combat sometimes.
Yeah. And Skyrim also doesn't help because the favorites list I think is worse than the radial menu. The favorites list doesn't have a limit, so you can just scroll through that bitch.
Yes.
And I'm assuming that's faster for some people, but for me, I would rather hit one on my keyboard and pull out the knife, you know?
Yeah, I do prefer that. It's crucial for Chuck Norris. I gotta have a rotation
Yeah, if you're casting
that I gotta
spells,
keep up with.
especially, right?
You wouldn't really be able to. Chuck Norris is definitely not viable in Skyrim. 'Cause, I mean, right off the bat, hand to hand sucks in Skyrim. They took that skill out,
I mean, among
which
the
was
many other things they took out of Skyrim, you know?
they took out mysticism, which was that really a bad move?
No,
Let's be
illusion and
honest.
mysticism they should basically just kind of be the same thing, in my opinion, at least.
Yeah,
Um, so let's go ahead. Like I was saying, do you have any closing thoughts about how you feel about Skyrim versus Oblivion?
I think we've said it for the most part. Um, yeah, Oblivion, better quest, Skyrim, better exploration. That's all that really needs to be said. Then.
Yeah, I do really personally like the art style in Oblivion too, though. I like the more high fantasy. I know it's all the same setting, but Oblivion to me distinctly feels more high fantasy in the way that it's portrayed. Uh, like the way the Mythic Dawn like guards are dressed and stuff like that. Um, the way that the creatures look, like the Daedra, the Spriggans, the trolls, all of it looks uh more fantastical. So I like that, and I like the setting more. Um, but this paves the question, right? What are they gonna do for the Elder Scrolls 6? What kind of predictions do you have, Elias?
I have several. I actually really want these to be on record for when Elder Scrolls 6 comes out,
Let's
if it
start
ever
spitting.
does. But okay, this goes back to Starfield. I believe personally that Starfield was basically just a tech demo for the vehicle mechanics. So I think Elder Scrolls 6 is going to include vehicles of some kind, and I think it's going to be ships. We're going to be on the coast of Daggerfall and Hammerfell. And I also think since, usually you're like a chosen one of some kind, I think they're going to bring in the Blade Singers from the lore,
Mm, that would be
which are
fucking
based.
cool.
Do you know about the Blade
I do. I
Singers?
know about the Blade Singers. Yeah,
I think that's what you're going to play as in Elder Scrolls 6.
like that's gonna be your like a character archetype, like how
Yeah.
the guy with the Dragonborn in 5.
Yes. And I think you're
You
going to
might
be
be right
sailing
there.
on a ship.
You might be right there. And then you get shipwrecked or something like that.
No, I think it's just going to be part of like exploration and traversal.
Oh, okay, okay. So you're thinking they're gonna go for a aquatic based, like navigation system. You know what I think would be cool if you're on the coast of Hammerfell and Daggerfall, right? What would be cool is if you could sail between the two maps.
That's what I'm speculating they're going for.
Pokemon Gold and Silver type B. Going back to the
Sure.
Kanto region. Yeah, you could
Yeah.
go to the Johto and Kanto regions in those games. It was pretty fucking cool.
Mhm.
It was nice to see how time passed too. Which, I mean, that gives you an option to explore Daggerfall in a new 3D setting since, I mean, that's never been done before.
Yeah, it's
Unless,
been quite some time.
I
I
mean,
mean, Daggerfall was
ESO.
3D.
What about Elder Scrolls Online though? Like, was Daggerfall there?
Yeah, definitely. I played it. I leveled extensively in that area. I forgot just right up until now because
Okay, so I was wrong, but, but if
I
it's
put a lot of hours into Elder Scrolls Online, and I feel like they've just escaped my mind. Like,
yeah. Still, it,
but
it it would
that's
just
a
be
whole
cool to
nother.
have it in a more traditional Elder Scrolls game format too, though. Because ESO is a little
Yeah,
bit different as well.
I am. Sometimes I am disappointed by what Bethesda has on offer in the Elder Scrolls universe because I feel like there's just so much missed potential Like, can we please give the IP to another Microsoft development company? Like, let them make let id or whoever's making Doom right now. Let them make a game about Pelennor Whitestrake. Like, we anything. I could use something. I mean, I know we got Elder Scrolls Castles. I don't know if you've seen this game.
What is that?
It's Fallout Shelter, but Elder Scrolls.
I don't.
It's
Okay,
it's ass. Don't
sure.
worry about it.
Sure, thanks Bethesda. Appreciate it. Yeah. In terms of predictions, honestly, I don't have much to say here. I'm more on the side of it doesn't matter. I hope it's good, but after waiting so long, I feel like regardless of how this game turns out, I will feel jaded and disappointed because it shouldn't take them 15 plus years to capitalize on one of the most successful game releases of all time. Obviously, they released other games in the meantime between Skyrim and now, like Fallout 4 and Starfield. But we were shown that teaser for ES6 back in 2018, Elias, and we still haven't heard
Holy
anything
shit.
about it. It was 18, bro. It's been so long. With the track record Bethesda is currently on, I can't find it within myself to get hyped over ES6, knowing that if and when it comes out, it's probably gonna run like shit. It's gonna have a shitload of bugs, and the game overall will probably be as simple as Skyrim, if not more somehow, because that was the game that sold the most, right?
Yeah, you're right. Maybe I'm being a little too optimistic, but I I
It's
think it's in
possible.
everyone's best interest to hope for the best.
It
All
is
right,
possible
what are
that
we
it'll
gonna
be
do?
good. It is possible.
What are we gonna do? We're gonna sit here and be upset. We're gonna sit here and be sad. Maybe Bethesda will make a comeback. I'm saying it could come out next year. It could come out next year.
I would eat a whole boat if that happened.
That's on record now. So we're gonna follow up on that.
Look forward to that next year when Elder Scrolls 6 drops. Um, if anything, dude, I hope they don't give your character a voice. I hope we can maybe explore some more interesting factions outside of the stuff that we're already familiar with, like the Dark Brotherhood, Thieves Guild, Mages Guild, and Fighters Guild, right? The Elder Scrolls universe is so expansive and full of crazy ideas. All you need is creatively driven people to put something together, because I think all anybody really wants is Oblivion in a new setting with a just make it a little bit bigger, you know? Make the dungeons better, but keep that level of interactivity with the quests and stuff. That's what I would like.
I wouldn't necessarily mind if ES6 had a like a level up system similar to the Oblivion remaster. I mean, it's
Yeah,
not.
it's good. I like it.
Yeah, it's not bad. It's not bad. You somehow you're still encouraged to like take a few major skills that you know you're not gonna level up. Because okay, one thing I forgot to bring up was the way the world scales with you in Oblivion, and when you just level up quickly, you big scary monsters just appear out of thin air.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like it's so immersion breaking in my opinion, and it kind of ruins the feeling of character progression sometimes.
Spitting facts right now.
Because you're always just fighting something that's on level with you.
And it gets so
That-
repetitive because the creature pool starts to shrink as you get to the higher levels. Because especially when I was starting to go through the Oblivion gates, right? Because I didn't do the main quests until I did all the factions, because I was more interested in the factions. And man, by the time I got to Kavash, shit was fucked up over there, dude. It was all Daedroth, all Storm Atronachs. Everybody died.
yeah, same here. That happened on my second character in the remaster.
And it was horrible. It was not fun to go through that.
Yeah, I had some performance issues because of the amount of enemies
Yeah, my
that
game
were on the
crashed.
screen.
My shit straight crashed when I hit the courtyard. I walked outside and there was like 20 Daedroths and Atronachs, and the game went nah. And then it just closed itself.
Yeah, I had to do that with unarmed combat. I
That
was
must have
just
been
running
fun.
around and kiting them for like 30 minutes.
Like COD zombies.
Yeah, absolutely. But I don't know. That just takes me out of it. No one area is really that more dangerous than the others. Like,
So that is a good thing about some of the more modern games, right? Like Fallout 4 had that glowing sea area, which I still think is really cool because it was like all the most irradiated stuff is in the spot with the highest levels of radiation, right? Which is a static position on the map that you can go to if you're wanting that. But the fact that everywhere you go now is just trolls, daedroths, minotaurs, and storm atronachs, like, and all the bandits are wearing like maxed out armor and stuff. And it's like I get it, but like it would be more believable to me if you sparse the high level creatures in with a bunch of low level creatures, right? So if you have like a bandit camp, make it so that there's a couple high level guys in the bandit camp, right? Like a chief or some guards or something that maybe are wearing some swag armor, but everybody else is still wearing bones and leather and shit. That way you get a kind of balance between uh, you know, developing your character enough and leveling them up enough to have that kind of power fantasy where you can just smite those low level enemies, but then you still get that challenge as well.
exactly what they did in Skyrim.
Right. Yeah, with the bandit chiefs and stuff.
Yep.
So yeah, I think that's a great idea and something they should take forward. The way the enemies scale in this game is just straight horse shit, and it makes the game less enjoyable the more you play it, which is unfortunate.
Yeah, honestly, back in the day when I was religiously playing this game, I would just re-roll a character by like level 18.
Yeah, because that's really the point where shit starts to get tough.
It's not even that it gets tough. It almost, like you said, the pool of monsters shrinks, and you just end up doing the same shit over and over again. Like nothing changes. It kind of, the world like freezes in time, and it never progresses. Like the outer world, like exploring. There's just no reason to explore.
And like I said earlier with that arena quest, right? By the time I became the grand champion of the arena, I was already leveled up so much from doing a bunch of other stuff that when I talked to Isabel, she only gave me the option to fight minotaurs and nothing else. Like no trolls, no nothing like that. It was minotaurs every time because I already hit the level cap basically. So
Hmm,
yeah, it sucks,
that's
man. It's
disappointing.
not fun.
Yeah.
So what I would want from ES6 is a game that functionally expands upon the strengths of Oblivion's storytelling, quests, and characters, while also carrying forward those more modern quality of life improvements that were implemented back in Skyrim. I want the game to allow me to develop a character in this universe to my taste without adding too much restrictive structure to the main story like the new games have been doing. Don't tell me my character is a father who's trying to find his son or anything like that. Let me decide and figure out what I want to do while having the main quest be something that any character could be a part of.
Yeah, I agree with you. One thing I'm terrified of for Elder Scrolls 6 is that Bethesda is going to move forward with procedural generation or yeah, and
Radiant AI quests.
yes.
No,
I
dude.
I really think they might go that direction, and that'd be the worst possible universe.
That sounds so nightmarishly awful, dude.
I wouldn't put it past them at this point, though,
Because it,
because
it does make sense though, right? With the way AI and stuff has been more popularized in culture, especially as of recently. Um it would make sense to lean more into that stuff that randomly generates shit because it's probably less work for them too, I imagine.
yeah, and they can just fill it with because they did that shit with Starfield for some fucking reason. They were like, "There's 1,000 planets." There's 1,000 planets with nothing to do on them.
Why don't you give me 20 handcrafted planets with interesting quest lines and memorable characters?
Yeah, how many planets do you need to play on? Like there's no reason to have 1,000 planets
In
in that game.
Oblivion, you play on one planet.
Yeah, and there's a lot of shit to do.
Yeah. So the idea that you can make 1,000 planets with a bunch of sparse like not connected content that doesn't mean anything. Like obviously nobody wants that, but I don't know. Maybe they'll see with the success of the Oblivion remaster that that people are craving that old structure that the games used to have, you know? That would be my cope, I guess.
Yeah, move away from the action RPG and back to RPG, I guess.
Yeah, but I don't know. If you want to appease more people, then the action is the way to go. So, like I said,
I,
Skyrim sold a lot more. So,
I, I
what are
don't
you
know if
gonna?
that's necessarily true.
You don't think so?
I think Oblivion wasn't even that deep of an RPG, anyways. In my opinion, it's just obtuse.
Um,
As-
yeah, I mean, I suppose. It wasn't. It's not the most like depth-filled RPG with the most amount of options for creating your character and stuff, right? But it is definitely more focused upon in that game than I think it is in Skyrim or most of the other games afterwards, right? Fallout 4, for example, I mean, they put it your character's story like right in your face from the jump. You know, you had no real option to make like a guy who was like a raider or something like that. I don't know. It's
That no, that's how Fallout usually is. Every Fallout game, you're like, hey, you're this guy.
well in
Literally
three,
from the first one.
yes, but in okay, in 3 and New Vegas, right? The more popular examples, you get a position and a title, right? You're a vault dweller or you're a courier, but everything else about your character is not present, right? You don't know any of that. But at the jump with Fallout 4, this I mean this is a little off topic, but it goes back to the fact that they put that restrictive structure in place for the story where it's like you are a father. You were a guy who came from this time period before the bombs dropped. You had a wife or husband, right? And your son is a very important person in the universe. I don't like that. I don't like the game telling me who I am. Cuz in a CRPG, the focus has to be on the character. So if you aren't going to allow me to express myself um in a way that is more open to the universe, then why have me create a character at all? You know? And like I understand what you're saying that that is more specific to the Fallout games, but there is potential for them to do that with the Elder Scrolls, I think. And you know, I
Yeah,
I, I would just hope the focus falls more in the other direction.
they usually give you a reason to care about the main story, like off the jump in Elder Scrolls. I thought it was really well done in Skyrim, where you just kind of slip in. I mean, you are sure like a chosen one type guy, but in Oblivion, it just feels kind of forced. Like you're just in a cell, and the fucking emperor
Yeah, walks
of
through.
everything. He's like, I've seen you in my dreams. Like, what? What?
Well, I mean, I kind of like it more that you just happen to be in the cell with the emergency exit. I like that more than you being the Dragonborn and kind of being prophesized to be here. And you know, like I don't know. I would just rather have from because Oblivion structure right presents you from the jump with the ability to do whatever you want. Like yeah, you have that section with the Emperor at the beginning, but once you get out the cave, you can do fucking whatever. It doesn't matter if you just hold the Amulet of Kings in your pocket the whole time.
Yeah, same thing goes with Fallout 4. You don't have to go do the main storyline. Like, there's no time gate or anything. I mean, it's
I
kind of true
know
of all Bethesda
I,
RPGs.
I know, but when your character steps out the vault and opens your wife's fucking freezer pod and takes the ring off her frozen finger, it kind of makes it
Yeah.
so that there's more of a why wouldn't your character directly be going to the center of the conflict?
Yeah.
You don't have that nuance of the character that you made being like, well, fuck the Emperor, I don't care. You know, I'm gonna go join the Dark Brotherhood or the Thieves Guild or whatever. When you're playing as a guy and he has a wife and when you take the ring, he literally says like, "Don't worry, I promise I'll find Sean," right? then it's like, why is this character not going to do the thing that he was written to do? It makes it feel too restrictive, in my opinion.
Yeah, what about Fallout 3? You're looking for your lost dad. Why would you not immediately go do that?
Well, that's okay. That's a fair point, right? And okay, well, let me explain. Let me explain. In Fallout 3, right, you grow up from the vault, and you see your dad kind of sparsely through these sections where you're growing up, and then he just kind of disappears, right? But there is the excuse of once you exit the vault from Fallout 3, right, with all the bullshit that happens, because you kind of have to leave, with the shit that goes down. Once you escape, right, you could say something along the lines of like, he doesn't know where his dad is to begin with. So I guess it's kind of the same because you have to travel to the
Protagonist in 4 doesn't know where his son is either.
yeah, I guess so. I don't know. It feels more distinct to me, I guess, because like it's not about your character. It's about your dad in Fallout 3. In Fallout 4, you are very specifically like the father of this guy who's very important. Your dad is very important in Fallout 3 too, but it's not the main crux of the conflict. He's like an important scientist in regards to getting the water to work, but when your son is the conflict of the entire story, when your son is basically the bad guy of the institute, it
That twist maybe could have been done well, but the writing in 4 was just ass.
I just feel like too much
Just
importance was placed on your character and your son. Your dad is important in 3, but once you get out of the vault and you have to kind of navigate the open world, yeah, it says that you have to go look for your dad, but you kind of had to leave the vault regardless. Shit was going to hell in there, and weren't they trying to kill you?
I think no, maybe. I can't remember at this point actually. I think it was just like rad roaches and shit, but
No, I
I
swear
don't
when you
remember
have to
why he
break
left.
out, it was like your dad got out or something and then they were trying to kill you. So, from what I remember at least, you had to escape that vault regardless. And then I think it's more believable to be like, oh, he became a different person after that. Whereas as soon as you leave the vault in Fallout 4, it is like your prime directive is I have to find my son. I have my wife's ring in my pocket. It makes it more believable, I guess, because I feel like there are fewer strings attached, even though the overarching story is a little similar.
Yeah, and Fallout 1, you're a Vault Dweller as well, and you have to go get a water chip before your Vault runs out of water. I mean, I don't know if Fallout's just a good thing to bring up here, honestly. Like that's
Maybe
just
not.
kind of
Maybe
what
not.
Fallout has always done. But I could, yeah, that hopefully they won't do it in ES6. That that would be cool.
I have more faith in that, knowing that, I mean, Elder Scrolls has a history of you being more in control of your character. Like you said, Fallout might not have been the best comparison to bring up there, but I feel like it is important, right? Because it shows where their mind is at when they're developing these games past Skyrim. I don't think your character had a voice in Starfield.
No, I hopefully they won't do that. Would suck. I mean, and another thing, you can play any race in Elder Scrolls, so they would have to
Get a whole bunch
either
of voice actors, right?
yeah, or they would have to gate which races you can pick, which
That would be dumb as
that would
hell.
be yeah, yeah, that would be a horrible idea.
Well,
I do wish the
hopefully it won't happen.
dialogue options in ES6 would evolve, but I mean they've just fallen off since Morrowind.
Yeah, the dialogue is a section that I feel like has not gotten better in really any of the games.
It's gotten worse,
Yeah.
pretty much.
Well, we have been going for about an hour and 15, so I think it's about time to wrap up the discussion. So, much like the last episode, it is time for the question. So, I have a particular question written for you about this game. Um,
Oh,
with a little bit of background, just a tiny bit. So Oblivion, from what I have researched, the remaster of Oblivion is the currently the third best selling game of this year.
Oh, I didn't know it was doing that well.
It is the third best-selling game of the year, behind and by the way, already, because it literally like just came out right like 2 weeks ago. Third best-selling game of the year, behind Monster Hunter Wilds and unfortunately Assassin's Creed Shadows.
Jeez,
I can't believe that many people bought that game, but whatever.
that
Um,
is disheartening.
it is. But my question is, why do you think a game from 2006 with a graphical facelift and quality of life improvements is one of the best-selling games of the year so far? What about Oblivion makes it so special that it can still be enjoyed so many years later and achieve this level of success?
I think a big part of it is nostalgia. I mean, Oblivion performed well when it came out, from what I understand. I don't know if I've encountered too many people who are like completely new to the franchise just playing Oblivion. So maybe my worldview is a bit biased, but I think it's mostly returning players just trying to relive past memories. It's a new Elder Scrolls game, kind of. Um,
I mean, I mean, it's a new game to play, at least,
as
yeah.
far as Bethesda goes, it's basically a new game because we don't get shit.
Well, yeah, especially compared to what we've been getting, which is poo poo slop. So
I wonder how many new people there are coming
I'd
to this
imagine a
game
lot.
because
I'd imagine quite a few. Let me look up the Steam charts right now.
I don't think it's strictly because like, oh, the games nowadays suck, because Kingdom Come 2 Deliverance came out this year.
So the
It's-
all-time peak on Steam for players of the Oblivion remaster was 216,000.
that is ridiculous. People came out in force. It was the shadow drop. I think it was just hyped.
That
Everyone
definitely
wanted to get
helps.
on it.
That definitely helps. But let's think about this though, right? That doesn't account for console players, and that doesn't account for people playing through Game Pass,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. I
So
mean,
the numbers got to be crazy, right?
I think you don't people don't realize how popular Elder Scrolls is.
But that's what I'm saying though. That's my question. Is it still holds that power? You know, it still holds that ability to just come out in 2025, almost 20 years later, and go, bam, motherfucker, Oblivion. What do you think about Oblivion? Besides, like the nostalgia, right? Because yes, there's probably a lot of people coming back who are like, hell yeah, I get to play Oblivion again. I mean, that's who we are, right? But
Yeah.
I think with the level of success that it's having, there's got to be a bunch of new people, right?
Yeah, there's definitely some in there. I'm curious how they feel about the game because I mean, there's so much bias and sentimentality wrapped up in our opinions.
True. True.
So I would be curious to hear from someone who has played the remaster and maybe never played Oblivion or Skyrim back in the day.
I mean, I could easily
'Cause-
understand somebody walking away from this game in 2025 and being like, "Yeah, this is not it," because it's some of the stuff in the game is still carries that archaic stuff from the old engine.
Yeah, and I mean, honestly, if you're just going out and like just clearing dungeons and not really skipping dialogue and not paying attention to the quests, I could see you not getting too much enjoyment out of the game.
Well, that is a bad way to play the game, honestly.
Well,
But that
yeah,
that would
but
be playing the game like Skyrim, though, right?
pretty much you could at least there was some decent dialogue in Skyrim.
There was
There
also a lot of
was
bad
three.
dialogue too.
Same thing in Oblivion.
This okay. This is nostalgic cope for sure, but I do feel like Oblivion kind of has like a bit more of a charming shittiness to it, whereas Skyrim does not, right? I mean, they still kept audio files in the game of people like rereading dialogue and stuff. And the way stuff
Yeah.
is delivered and like, people's like weird unnatural facial expressions is kind of part of the charm, honestly. And that's not really fair because that's unintended too, but like I said, it's a little bit of cope, but
Well, I think sometimes like an earnest and genuine presentation, even though it is a bit goofy or not like high fidelity or whatever, sometimes if you're just honest with it and like lean into it a bit, then it's enjoyable. Like we recently watched together the Street Fighter movie.
Yeah.
I mean
That
that
was
movie is the costumes were bad. I mean just on paper it's a low budget film, but it's so much fun because they just lean into it and there was honestly some funny jokes.
Stay tuned for the Street Fighter the movie episode with Elias.
I, I would come back. I would love to talk about Street Fighter the movie actually,
Yeah, it's a definitely
but
enjoyable movie.
that's for a different time. But I
Right.
think that should factor in because that's just something you can't quantify though.
It's got I think that's what people might mean when they say that magic though, you know. There's like
Yeah.
an indescribable accidental kind of comfort feeling that Oblivion has that Skyrim does not, you know? And I would describe it as like an
Whoa.
art through adversity type thing.
I don't know about. I think Skyrim still has some chill and comforting vibes. The music is still
Jeremy
fantastic.
Soule, yeah, has that amazing soundtrack. That is true. But I think what I'm referring more specifically to is characters and like how dialogue and stuff works. Right. A lot of the dialogue in Skyrim to me felt like it was delivered very dryly. Whereas you look at a guy like Lucian LeChance, you know, Lucian LeChance is putting his whole nutsack into that reading, dude.
Shea Gorath.
Shea Gorath. I mean, that's not fair. Shea Gorath is like so memeable and fun. Um, and so like, I mean, his performance alone and his voice actor's performance, uh, eclipses like the entirety of Skyrim to me personally. But I don't know.
Oh,
Maybe
that
maybe I'm
makes
on
me
tilt right
happy.
now. Maybe I'm on tilt. But I mean, come on, he's awesome though, dude. They're
No,
like
I love Shea Gorath, and
so
yeah,
much personality.
yeah. I don't know if I would go as far as you went, but I do love Shea Gorath a lot, and
Okay,
there's nothing. Shea Gorath is in Skyrim, and it's not even close.
no.
I mean, it's even the same voice actor. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, but he's just in that like one little optional quest, and then he's just
Mm.
gone. So you know. Okay. Well, what I could ask is this: can you give me a character or performance that you remember from Skyrim specifically, like a guy or just any performance that you remember that you think stood out to you really well?
I liked Parthenox,
That's fair.
Mirak, right? The guy from Dragonborn.
He's all right. Yeah.
The fucking Hermaeus Mora,
hmm
which I guess from the same DLC.
hmm
Serena,
Or Serana. Yeah.
Serana. Oh shit.
She was
But
also
still,
okay. I feel like she also is kind of a victim of the dialogue being delivered very dryly, though. You know, like a lot of
yeah.
what the characters say in Skyrim is just very. It's just delivered like flat with a level of bluntness to it, and maybe that's like an intentional thing that they were going for, but I don't know. It. I kind of like Brynjolf, and I think Parthenax is a good example, right? Parthenax has a lot to say and is like literally a talking dragon too, which helps out.
Yeah. Yeah, that does help out with cool points. Uh, but yeah, no, your point still stands though. Point still stands.
Yeah. Oblivion just has that little bit of swag factor, you know? It's something that
It's
we've
unquantifiable,
it is.
unquantifiable.
It's something that we've referred to on this podcast several times, honestly, and it is some people might not understand what me or Chandler mean when we say that the when we were talking about Invincible, right? We were like, "Ah, Invincible's got no sauce." You know what I'm talking about? Um you might not understand what we mean by that, but it's an unquantifiable level of just coolness that I guess is very subjective, but
I think Skyrim is cool. I think Skyrim has sauce. I really enjoy the setting.
it's not sauceless, but I think it has less sauce than Oblivion,
Yeah, that's an opinion. I don't know. We could talk in circles about that.
I suppose. But I'm happy that you kind of fall on the other side of the fence because um often on here me and Chandler tend to agree. So it is nice to hear the perspective of somebody who's not
Yeah,
really on the same side as you are.
I'll vouch for Skyrim. I still love that game.
I mean, make no mistake, as much as I've been shitting on it, I played a lot of it, bro, and it was definitely one of my favorite games when I was younger. But I just feel like as I've gotten older, I've looked at the things that I liked about Skyrim, and I think that they were done better in a lot of other games, you know? Because Skyrim, to me in particular, doesn't really excel in any one factor any more than any other fantasy RPG combat game does, you know?
Yeah, I'll have a hard time refuting that. Other than just the exploration, it's just the world, and that you can truly get lost in it.
True. Elder Scrolls itself has a very immersive and just limitless world full of all kinds of different stories and characters, you know, but I feel like they don't draw upon that as much as they should. If you want to talk about a game that has deep levels of exploration, you could talk about something that came out at the same time, though, like Dark Souls,
Yeah, the amount of like storytelling that went on throughout the world.
which is mostly relayed to you through the environment and you having to explore it, right? So I feel like if you're looking for something like that, you might want to play another game entirely. If you're looking for something like well written quests and stuff, you might want to play like a Baldur's Gate or something like that, you know? I guess this is all being said in hindsight, obviously, but I don't know. That's just how I feel.
Yeah,
Um,
I think Skyrim just I feel like a broken record, but the loop of running around and just smacking bandits or whatever is in your way around. It took a while for it to get old to me.
it offers you a very fun sandbox as well that you can play around with. And the level of it sucks that you don't have stuff like the spell creation, you know, but the spells that they did put in there and, you know, the two-handed system at the time, it was very um it was pretty cool, you know.
Yeah, I feel like the two-handed system made alteration kind of you like I don't know, it just made it awkward to like apply buffs to yourself. It felt kind of limited, where like really you just want like a destruction magic and a weapon in your hand, or
Mhm.
I don't know. Some setups felt clunky
I kind of like how
with the two-handed system.
in Oblivion I can hold a sword and shield and then just slap the C key and throw out a fireball and then go back to blocking, you know. So I feel like there's benefits and you know liabilities to either system, but whether you like one or the other is more up to preference. But yeah, we've been going on for a little while now. Um, I want to say thank you, Elias, for coming on the podcast.
Of
Um,
course,
it was really nice to talk about Oblivion again. It was really nice to play Oblivion again too. So, uh,
absolutely.
very rare and exceptional W from Microsoft and Bethesda. So
True. Yeah, it's sad that this is the W that they get, in my opinion. But
it's something at least.
it is something.
At least
I'll
we get
take
to
it.
play Oblivion again. So,
Yeah,
shouts out
probably
to
about to after this.
yeah, yeah, for real. Because I still haven't finished the main quest or Shivering Isles. I got to the point where I was putting the Gatekeeper back together, but I mean, dude, I've been playing so much Oblivion, and we're barely getting this episode out at the end of the month. So
Yeah, it does suck that I didn't get to do everything in the remaster, but like I have to
it's not like it's
work
a
and
game you've
shit
never
like that.
played before either, though. You know, so
Yeah, some of it I'm going off memory from like 16 years ago or whatever, but
yeah. Well, like I said, thank you again for coming on the podcast and talking to me. Thank you all for listening. If indeed you have made it this far, don't forget to check us out on Spotify. We're available on there and on YouTube. Pretty much anywhere you get your podcast. Um, Start a discussion in the comments if you want to. If you know if you feel a certain way about Oblivion or Skyrim, I encourage you to share your thoughts and start a discussion. You know
don't
because
say anything mean about me,
yeah,
please.
don't bully Elias. Okay. Um, yeah, I definitely look forward to having you back on here for some future episodes, hopefully, and I hope you had a good time too.
Yeah, absolutely. I would love to do it again.
That's great to hear. All right, well, thank you again for coming. Thank you to everybody who's listened, and we'll see y'all next time. Bye bye.